Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic week as usual. I've been having a pretty good weekend, apart from the weekend just gone. It was stupid hot for like all of the east coast of Australia, and Brisbane got it comparatively not so bad to many other places, but it was still a very uncomfortable weekend. So it got to Sunday afternoon, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I can stream tonight. I had to, I've normally got, my laptop runs pretty much 24/7 because I'm lazy and couldn't be bothered closing the stuff I've got open, so I never shut it down. But I had to switch it off. I had to just unplug all the electronics on standby in my room, trying to get it to drop a couple of degrees, and I still couldn't do it, so I had to evacuate my room, had to go for a swim, had to go and hang out in air conditioning, which I sadly don't have in my room. It should be part of the building code in Queensland to have aircon, but sadly I don't have any. And it got to about 6 o'clock at night, and I stepped back into my room, and it was still just, you'd step into my room, it was just a wall of heat just hits you in the face. And I thought, if I stream tonight, then I will be passing it on camera. And I know that people would probably pay good money to see me pass out anywhere. They'd be happy to see the lack of me, I'm guessing, but I thought due to the health risks it posed that I probably shouldn't stream. Welcome everyone, hope you're having a fantastic week. We've got chat going Burko already. What am I missing? Please make CTF pwn videos or fuzzing. I'd love to do fuzzing. In fact, fuzzing is something we want to do this year. I'm not great at fuzzing, so I want to actually learn how to do it. So we'll be learning how to do that on stream this year for sure. And CTF pwn videos, I hope to get back to them. I used to do them. I've been sniped lately by shiny things. I've been wanting to talk about bugs. Last stream we did the Metasploit bugs. Tonight is the RVM bugs. And these bugs tonight are the ones that I think... I know that I disclosed them to the project in October last year. And around about that time I started saying on stream, hey, I found some really just not great. Like, the impact's not great of these bugs. Exploiting them is a pain in the butthole, but they're just interesting. They're just cool bugs, and I've been really looking forward to just going through the process of how I found them and how they work. And I started saying late last year, hey, you know, I've got some cool bugs coming up, thinking that they'd be patched pronto, and the project didn't patch them in a time frame that I think they should have. Finally, they're patched. Finally, the patches are public. So we're welcome and we're free to talk about them. I published an advisory this morning. I'm looking forward to diving into them tonight. But lately we've been going through some bugs and flushing out some bugs. But I really want to go back to the CTF stuff. This year I want to do more binary. I'm really personally enjoying binary. I don't know if people are enjoying it as much as I am. But I like to do what I enjoy on stream. So there'll be binary pwnables. We'll also be hopefully getting some more web pwnables. If we find some good web pwnables, let's do those. Lastly, I want to start doing some boot to roots as well. I was planning on doing Geckham's IMF boot to root tonight, which you can find actually on VulnerHub if you want to download it, have a crack before the next stream, which I've got news about the next stream. In fact, let's stop back. Here we go. It's on VulnerHub. It's called IMF. I've done one challenge in this boot to root. But I haven't done the thing as a whole. I've never actually booted it up as a whole, so I'm looking forward to doing that on stream in the coming weeks or months. And I'd like to do some boot to roots this year. I think boot to roots are cool. If you're not aware of what a boot to root is, vulnerhub.com has a bunch of them. They are VMs that you can download, spin up, and break into. They've often got a storyline that goes with them, and they've got a fairly linear progression to them, in as much as you'll be confronted with a service and you have to break into that. Once you break into that, you then get exposed to a different service. You have to break into that, then you get exposed to something else. And so there's a very linear path through the machine until you get to root. Hence the name boot to root. You boot it, then you root it. So we're doing more of that this year. Because it's too tired. The poor bike's too tired to stand. All right, I'm going to let Null and Singularity battle it out. I heard a good one the other day. I was playing Scrabble, and I ate... Hang on. Had to count there. I ate 8 of the letters. So we were playing Scrabble. There's these little tiles with letters on them, and I consumed 8 of these tiles. And I'm worried because my next bowel movement could spell disaster. So that's my contribution to the crappy jokes tonight. First fuck up of the night's already begun. Can I do SE Linux layer shifting? No, I think you'd probably be the man for SE Linux layer shifting. I didn't even know you could shift. I didn't even know that SE Linux had layers or that they're shiftable. So Null, I'm looking forward to your stream on SE Linux layer shifting. I think you'd be well placed to do that. Isn't it root and boot or root boot to doot? No more. Okay, all right. I've been banned. No more comedy. Announcements. I've got some announcements to get out of the way. If I could get the all okay that my audio is alright, that people can hear me and that the music's not overwhelming, that would be super, because I have trust issues with my audio setup. Announcements. I am going to take a couple of weeks hiatus. As a lot of you know, I'm moving in less than 2 weeks to Melbourne, and so to get to execute on that as best as possible, and not leave anything behind and not leave any ends untied, and to settle into Melbourne properly, I'm taking a hiatus. So I'm going to take a few weeks off. I don't have a return date planned yet. I don't really know how I'm going to get my microphone, my audio setup, my screen. I'm taking my laptop, leaving some stuff behind with my parents and telling them to put them on the road when I find my permanent accommodation. So I won't even actually have a lot of my gear until I actually get it put on the road. So without my gear, and to let me settle into someone's behind me, don't do that. No. So that I can settle into my new job properly, because I really want to, execute well on a new job, as well as do the move properly and settle into my new home in Melbourne. I'm taking a few weeks off. I'm sure you'll understand, and when we come back, things will be hopefully bigger and better than ever. And on that, when we do start back up, I will probably be starting straight into 1 stream per week. I've struggled this year to get back into the pattern of 2. Towards the end of last year, I was winding down a lot of things personally, and I was finding a lot of free time to actually plan and execute on 2 streams per week. I don't think I'm going to have that time, and I don't think it's fair to me to kind of put me through that. So we're going to do 1 stream a week. I think that's going to help us to have better content, rather than me scrambling to think, I haven't thought of a stream tonight, what on earth are we going to do? I think if we stick to 1 a week, it's going to be high quality, it's going to be better for me and my sanity. I think it's going to be better for you fine folk as well. I think I've got a feeling that, I don't know, if I liked someone's stream and they streamed twice a week for several hours on end, I would have trouble kind of keeping up with the whole lot. So let's cut it down to 1. Let's see if we can all, for those who are in our time zone, let's see if we can all kind of turn up at the same time, enjoy chat together, rather than feeling so overwhelmed by the amount that Justin has committed to doing. Crowdfunding to get Justin back online sooner. Indeed. So that's that plan. It's going to be a couple of weeks off. I don't have a return date yet. I will announce it in the channel description below. I'll probably tweet about it when I know when I'm turning back up. And when we do, we'll be doing 1 a week. The schedule's not decided yet, but we'll figure that out as we go. So Jeff's got trouble committing to me twice a week. I would personally have trouble committing to me twice a week as well. So I think that's going to be best for everyone. I think twice a week was good while we got things spun up and kind of got some traction going. I think we've now got enough of a community that we can enjoy each other's company, once a week. Professional comedian training. Yes, I think I need comedian training as well as training in a lot of other things, but comedian training would be a good start. Other announcements. I finished up with my previous employer last week, and it was important. I know a lot of people were curious as to my new job that I've got in Melbourne. It was important to me to finish my tenure with my previous employer strong, and to not kind of go announcing where I was going. That was just important to me, and I wanted to kind of finish there strong before I announce, and execute on my new plans. So I'm excited to announce that in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, I'm starting with Telstra. If you're international, Telstra is a Australian telecommunications company that does amazing stuff, connecting people and giving us the internet that Australia is well known for having fantastic internet, and Telstra powers that. So I'll be joining their internal software security team. So I'm going to be looking forward to shoring up the security of internal code and working with developers to create better code across Australia. So if you're, yes, Discord, I've actually been looking to that. Null, I'm thinking Discord is a good idea. Let's work on things, in a couple of weeks' time. Let's build this community with things like Discord and see if we can kind of bring all the hacker streams together and have a big happy hacker family. So yeah, in a couple of weeks, I'm starting with Telstra's secure code team, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I think that's all the announcements I had. Hiatus, once a week, TBA. I'm starting with Telstra, and I want to execute on that well, so I'm taking some time off to make sure the move goes well, and I do just that. Telstra's well known for quality internet, even as a bash quote. Hey, to be fair, for years I've actually... This is... Okay, oh, one last thing. Even though I'm going to be working for Telstra, I sincerely hope to continue these streams. I sincerely hope to, and plan to, do them independently. And nothing that I say should ever, be construed as the opinion of any employer, past, present, or future. Bash quote. Singularity. Do I really want to open this one? If people want to click that, they can click that and read it. Who was I? Who were I with? I was with a security vendor who sells security products. That's all I'd like to say about that. So yeah, everything I say is my own stupid opinions, and in no way represents employers past, present, or future. That's, I think, all I really wanted to get out of the way. Tonight, what we're doing is looking at some bugs in RVM. Let me just pull up the link. So I dropped this. There's a link to this advisory in the description below. But I dropped this advisory this morning. A couple of days ago, the fixes actually landed on the project. If you go GitHub RVM, not RBM, GitHub RVM, and look at the commits, you'll see that there's a mix of dates. These are commit dates. I actually did QA things like this commit here, this commit there, this commit here, which they were authored back on those dates. And some of them, they were secure. I did further security QA and punched some holes in some of the proposed patches. So these dates are genuine, but these were only actually published and made public in the last... If you scroll down further, there's some commits from 3 days ago, 3 days ago, 3 days ago, 14, 19, 20 days ago. All these commits here from 2016 only just got made public. So they're security fixes for some bugs that I shook out of RVM. Now, if you're not familiar with what RVM is, it's the Ruby Environment Manager. I've also seen it referred to as the Ruby Version Manager. Now, a little while ago, we did a stream on something called RVM. So if you recall this stream, you'll know exactly the place that RVM fits into the world at. There was a reason for doing a stream about RVM as well. RVM, I'm not going to say it's bad code, but it's very complex code. And RVM has taken a strategy to execute on its thing, which is managing your rubies, that is very complex. It has a lot of surface area. I didn't audit all the code. I audited some of the code, found some bugs, and pulled up stumps. So let me begin by saying that throughout this stream, I'll be showing how I performed the analysis of RVM and the bugs that I shook out. You should dive into the code yourself, because there are probably more bugs in there, and if you find them, of course, as with any bug, you should do what you want to do with them. They're your bugs. I chose to actually disclose mine to the project. I suggest you do the same. I suggest that for all the sake of the people who use RVM, you should give back to open source and make it more secure. That's up to you. What you do with your bugs is, of course, your prerogative. I chose to disclose mine. But just in my bones, I feel like RVM delivers Ruby management in a less complex way, with much less attack surface, probably less lines of code. I haven't actually checked how many lines of code each project has, but the strategy of RVM, which is to shim things like Ruby by actually injecting into a path, as opposed to RVM, the way that RVM executes on what it does is to actually hook, re-implement and wrap CD. So every time in your shell that you run CD, RVM actually executes code and has a look at the directory you're changing into and makes decisions and performs actions. And it's in those areas of the code, it's in the hooking of CD and the things that get done while CD is hooked, that I found bugs. So in my opinion, if you've got a need for high security, RVM feels like a simpler way of achieving Ruby management versus RVM. Now, so back to the root. What is RVM? RVM is a package. It's a project. What am I missing in chat? Ruckaruck. What bugs did you find, and what would you be able to do with those bugs? It's all detailed in the advisory that Singularity just posted, and we're going to be going through them throughout tonight. I'm just trying to kind of set the stage as to what this is and where it fits into the world. I know a lot of people who use RVM, and I wouldn't think that there'd be that many bugs, but hey, what do I know? I agree. And the other thing that kind of shocked me, and this is, I don't mean any offense to the Metasploit community with this, but if you go Metasploit Dev Guide and read the Setting Up a Metasploit Development Environment manual, it tells you to install RVM. And I think there's a tiny little note here. Some people prefer RBenv. You can get instructions for RBenv, but you'll be on your own to make sure you have a sane Ruby. Most of the committers use RVM, so for the sake of this guide, we're going to stick with it. So the Metasploit community, who is full of very clever people, are recommending RVM. And to be fair, if you don't dive into the code, if you don't have a look at exactly how it works, RVM is a really nice solution. RVM does its job really well, and we'll circle back around to what that job is in a second. But RVM works well. It's not till you read the code that you're like, ooh, hooking CD. There's a lot of surface area here, and I can see some things that were done that had bugs. That you start to consider things like RBenv. So I agree. I know a lot of people who use RVM as well, and just kind of no one really thinks of looking at the code, I guess. And maybe this is, I don't know, a call to action. Look at the code of the things that you use. Even if a lot of smart people use it, just check out the code of the things you run, especially when they're interpreted languages like Python, Ruby, or Bash scripts. As much as reading Bash scripts is not my idea of a fun time, it's readable and doesn't require the kind of level of understanding with something like C. You know, you might use Nginx a lot or Apache a lot, and I don't suggest you go and read that code and look for bugs, but just all the boutique things like RVM or Metasploit or, I don't know, SQL map or what have you, if it's written in a language that you can parse, go read the code and just make sure there's nothing funny going on. You know, target functionality that feels interesting. Like with Metasploit, I felt like the saving of downloaded files would be interesting. With, you know, things like path reversal. And there were bugs there. With RVM, it's the hooking of CD, and you kind of look at the things that go on when CD is done each time. And you just kind of target the bits of code that you're like, this is unique and has interesting surface area. And you may find stuff, and you may then be able to contribute to the project by disclosing it and helping out all the people who do use it and don't read the code. That's my call to action. Read some code, find some bugs, publish them, have fun times. My microphone is disconnect. Is it really? OBS says my microphone's fine. Video audio is fine from here. Yes, Null, very clever. I don't know how many of the RVM bugs we'll get through this time, but they're comparatively more simple and much easier to exploit than the Metasploit ones. Hey, Syntax, not much at all. We're just going through some housekeeping before we get into the tech stuff. None of the tech stuff's been done yet. Immunoz, everyone else is reporting that the audio is okay. So I'm not sure. Maybe that's an issue on your end. Maybe hit the refresh button or check your audio settings. RVM, what it does is it manages your Ruby for you. So for example, you git cloned Metasploit, and Metasploit has a dependency. It's a Ruby project. It's got a dependency on a very particular version of the Ruby interpreter. You then git clone. Let's, for sake of argument, is SQL map written in Ruby? I think it is. Let's go look at the actual code. And let's look at Metasploit. Nope, SQL maps Python. WP scan, is WP scan Ruby? I know one of the two is. Yeah, there we go, Ruby. Alright, so you go and you get yourself a copy of Metasploit, and you get yourself a copy of WP scan. Now, the developers who built these basically wrote the code against a particular version of Ruby. And Ruby changes I'm guessing Ruby must change rapidly and not be backwards and forwards compatible, because there's a need for things like RBM and RVM, so there must be a problem with compatibility forwards and backwards. What you'll find is that in each project, for example, Metasploit Framework, you get a .ruby-version file. And inside there is 2.3.3. Let's go to WP-Scan, look at its Ruby version. .ruby-version, here it is, 2.4.0. So these two projects require different versions of Ruby. Let's see what Debian stable has. Debian, Jessie, Ruby. So it looks to me something like Debian. From the official operating system, the vendor's repos, you get, I'm guessing it's 2.1.5 or 2.1 or 2.1.x branch. I'm not sure exactly how the major and minor versions of Ruby work, but 2.1. something doesn't match what Metasploit expects, and doesn't match what WP-Scan expects. So your operating system, Debian, gives you one version, and then you got these two projects that require different versions. And if you go and just download Ruby and do a sudo make install, which you should never do on Debian, because you'll go and crap all over the places that the apt package manager should be managing for you, you'll have the ability to overwrite the system version with another version. But how do you get two of them? How do you get 2.4.0 and 2.3.3? The answer is is a Ruby manager. Something like RVM or RBN. So with RVM, actually, you know what? Let's actually install RVM. Let's sudo add user-m-s bin bash RVM. -m is unknown. Is it user add? I think I'm looking for user add. There we go. Let's go sudo -u rvm-s for a shell. It's not what I wanted. I wanted -i for interactive. There we go. So now I've just gone and sudoed across to the RVM user in my Docker container, which is UID 133338. So I've got a brand new user to play with. Did I switch to Debian LTS? I'm not on experimental. I'm still on testing, which is going to become stable in a couple of months after the freeze anyway. So yeah, I'm probably going to stick with stable once Stretch goes stable. However, looking at this here, this Jessie was just for the purpose of demonstration. And furthermore, this Docker container is probably running stable. Debian 8, is that Jessie? Yeah, so Debian 8 is Jessie. So the Docker container is stable. My host is testing, which is Stretch. But through the magic of Docker, we've got a Debian stable container that we can play with for demonstrations purposes. So we've got a brand new user, RVM, on my Docker container. It's got a nice empty home directory. If we go and install RVM, rvm.io, we've got a couple of options. We can YOLO this. In fact, we shouldn't YOLO it. So to install it, we need to download a GPG key. This one here. You must do this, even if you want to YOLO, you still need to get the key, and it's a key belonging to Mikhail Pappas. Mikhail is the project coordinator, I believe, who signs the commits. This key is what's used to make sure you're installing RVM securely, or at least somewhat securely. Then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do curl get.rvm.io, pipe it to bash -s stable. Curl pipe bash is dangerous. Even though it's coming down over HTTPS, it's still bad form. Let's just go and curl this and save it, shall we? Let's go and curl this. Fighting words. What's fighting words? What have I done now? You know, you made the first mistake with putting Ruby on Debian like that. using Debian. Shut it, null. Let's go and curl and save it to install.bsh. I think it's a bash script. Please tell me I've got networking in this container, or I'm going to be sad. Yeah, we do. Go on vim install, and yeah, we've got a bash script here. Now this bash script that we just downloaded, I think we'll find that it actually does some GPG stuff, right? RVM 1.26.0 introduces signed releases and automatic check of signatures when GPG software is found. Assuming you trust Mikhail Pappas, import the mpappas public key, downloading the signatures. So what's going on here is this install script itself actually checks the signature of itself, I think, or the signature of the next stage. Make sure that it was signed by Mikhail Pappas. However, if someone could break SSL, HTTPS, or break into this server and give you a malicious script, they'll just strip out the GPG checking stuff. But that's alright, because RVM actually does give you details on how to do a more secure installation. They do the right thing and say, hey, if you don't trust SSL to then properly bootstrap the signature checking functionality, click this link and you should do this, and we will do this. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense, because it's important to do it this way. So now for security, we need to install mpappas' public key, which we get from here. Now if you think that this box might be compromised, in fact it's even not over HTTPS, so we may be given this key and it may not be the real key. If we search Google for that key, what do we get? Get a bunch of stuff. What if we search Google for keybase mpappas? What you could do is, if you trust me that Mikhail Pappas and this person on Keybase is the signer of RVM, you can always go straight to, sorry about the bumping of the microphone, Mikhail's Keybase page, grab his key from here, get all their PGP keys, copy that, quit, GPG, delete key, yeah, curl that into GPG import. This will go and download mpappas' keys from Keybase, and then you could then check the, yep, it's the RVM signing key, and it's this key here, GPG, fingerprint, mpappas, and you could go and check this fingerprint here, compare it against what came up on the RVM website, ends in COE3, that looks good. You can compare this to what was shown over on the Keybase page, and it looks good. You could then also go and check mpappas' Twitter signatures that he's done to make sure that everything checks out and who you think mpappas is on the internet actually matches the map, the maze of mpappas' public keys, and end up basically back where you were over here. But that's what you want to do if you're really paranoid and want to check that mpappas' key really is his key. Then you want to download the installer. What have we got? We've got a curl. We've got a curl dash minus capital O, which is going to save a file. So I'm going to copy these two here, and we're going to save some files. What am I using for broadcasting? 41ND. Love i3, me too. Rock on. Check the description down below. It's got details on all the software I use, including what I use for streaming, which is OBS. Can I dye my hair like that guy, like Mikhail? Yeah, why not? He blew your hair, didn't he? Let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save these two scripts. So now we've got, let's go and get rid of that installer.bsh. Now, what does this guy wants to do? Verify the installer signature might need GPG2, and if it validates, so we do this, we do GPG verify RVM installer.asc. Didn't mean to paste it into chat, but you're welcome. And we get, it's a good signature from mpappas, the RVM signing key. Warning, this key is not certified with the trusted. So what you'd really want to do is, if you wanted to make this all hunky-dory, is sign mpappas' key yourself. Hint, I've done it. So if you trust my key, then I've signed M-Papas's, and then you can transitively trust his key really is his. Here's our C0E3 that we saw from before that actually is Mikhail's key, and it says it's a good signature. So that means that RVM installer really is the RVM installer, rather than doing the curl pipe shell thing that we all agree is a bad idea. The electric blue is like his signature. Alright, so we've got an installer. What do we do now? Run the installer. Bash RVM installer stable. Bash RVM installer stable. Now the kicker is we're going to need to actually rip this off soon and get the insecure version. Ba-bow. In fact, can you actually pick a version? Yeah, we can pick a version. Major version, minor version, and patch. I think 1.28.0 was vulnerable. In fact, has Mikhail posted a blog post yet? Nope. But 1.28.0, released in December, was vulnerable. So let's go and install 1.28.0. So we're going to do RVM installer, and then give it the version. -- version 1.28.0. There we go, it's downloading the old version. DM me after removing stuff down to Melbourne from you. DM me after removing stuff? What am I? DM me after moving stuff? No? Do you want to give that one another shot? Mr. Linz, hello, welcome everyone, by the way. Thank you for dropping by. If you're curious, tonight's drop is Cooper's Green, the standard. One of the few beers that's still actually Australian owned. It tastes pretty good too. Is this installed? Yep, okay, the install's done. To start using RVM, you need to run source blah blah blah. In all your open shell windows, in rare cases, you need to reopen them all. Alright, let's do this. Boop. So now we've got RVM installed. Can we do RVM-V? Yeah, we've got 1.28.0, which is vulnerable. You've never seen anyone on Twitch streaming from GNU Linux doing Nix stuff. There's literally, I was going to say dozens, there probably is dozens of us. 2 people you should follow if you haven't already is OJ, the Colonial. And this goes for everyone, by the way. There's no dodging this tonight. Twitch.tv/the Colonial, I think it is. In before wrong stream. Is there a 1 in here? That looks more familiar. There we go. If you want more people doing Nix stuff, then check out the Colonial and check out Kane as well. X, Y, and E. Kane did some streams last year. He's dropped off a bit. But if we all go ahead and smash Kane's follow button, maybe it'll encourage Kane to do more streaming. Check out those 2 fine lads. They're both Aussies. They're both fantastic people. Alright, so this install's done. We've got RVM installed in our shell. Now, the idea of RVM is to do things like... In fact, this machine should have Metasploit. Metasploit. Yeah, let's rsync-a opt Metasploit to Metasploit framework. Let's go and get a copy of it. Because doing bundle installs sometimes tries to touch files, which we need a copy of to be able to do. So now when you cd into Metasploit framework, RVM will helpfully say Ruby 2.3.3 is not installed. To install it, do RVM install Ruby 2.3.3. And you do that, and what it'll do is, if it's possible to, it will download a binary Ruby for you. If that's not possible, it will download the source code of Ruby 2.3.3. That's good. You actually get an update notice. That's cool. It'll download the source code for Ruby 2.3.3. It may apply some patches in some cases and compile it for you and install it to your home directory. And from then on, every time you cd into Metasploit Framework, the Ruby that's installed in your home directory will be what's used. It'll be Ruby 2.3.3, which is a version that satisfies Metasploit Framework. That's the purpose and the glory of RVM. Do we need to do this tonight? We just need to put RVM in the sudoers group. Alright, bear with me 1 second. User mod, capital G, sudo, RVM. Let's go and put RVM in the sudo group, and let's go and give RVM a password. Password RVM. New password is going to be this one here. Alright, let's sudo back to RVM. Sudo-u, RVM interactively. There we go. CD into Metasploit Framework. We want to do this install, and hopefully this time, RVM sometimes needs your it needs you to be a sudoer, and it asks you for your sudo password, so that it can install dependencies that are required for the compilation or the running of the Ruby you so desire. So that's what I had to do there. I had to duck out of being RVM, become Justin, make the RVM user a sudoer, and set a password so that I can be prompted for it. Now, if you're paranoid, you wouldn't go giving RVM your password itself. You'd just go and use sudo inside this shell here to make this shell become a sudo shell. But this is a Docker container that will be burnt down at the end of the night. So we're just going to go and put the password in here now. Hopefully it won't spray it in the terminal. It has not. Hopefully we see some sort of apt installation of dependencies happening in just a second. Is it? Yeah, Hunter 2. Same on my luggage, Null. Hands up everyone if you were around for the time that I did show that sudo password on stream and then had to go and rebuild my image to... It was a random password in my password manager, but I had to go and rebuild my image. Hands up if you remember the time that I put my sudo password on the stream in clear text. Let's get a show of hands. I don't think we're gonna... I don't think we're gonna need that tonight, but we'll leave it open. So you'll see here that RVM does things like installing dependencies, downloads source code, extracts the source code, configures the build, does the build, and sometimes does patching, and then installs it to your home directory. We'll see the output of this in a second. It's probably important that we actually do the installation of at least one Ruby with RVM so we can get a handle on exactly how it does the switching of Rubies behind the scenes. Because hint, it does it by hooking CD, and hint, the hooking of CD used to be vulnerable. We've got a show of hands for the password. Missed that one. Jeff, I think Jeff was there. No, I didn't, Null. You gotta do it in chat. You gotta do one of these ones. You gotta do a little in chat. If I did see you, then you should be really worried. By the way, it was Null, right? Null, was it you last? Yeah, it was Null, wasn't it? Who in Twitch chat said, you out on the town the other night because there's a video of you on the internet. And the scary thing was I actually was out in the party precinct having a couple of cold ones with some friends on the night that he said, were you out in town this last weekend? There's a video of you on Facebook. And I pooped my pants on stream, refused to open it, and then after the stream found out that Noel was trolling. So, thanks Noel. You got me good. Hope you're happy. Alright, so we're building Ruby. My system load's up at 12, so we're probably dropping OBS frames as well. Yes. Yes, we are. Sorry that... Has the quality gone to crap? The compilation is stealing my CPU cycles. OBS is dropping frames. My apologies. My machine, I should have niced the build. But hopefully this won't take too long. Hopefully the YouTube copy will not look like turds. My lips aren't moving. Audio's good, just skipping frames. Alright, hopefully the YouTube copy's not too bad. If the YouTube copy sucks, then lesson learned, Justin. Don't build software while you're streaming, because I've currently got 2 video encodes running in the background, by the way. Simply because I can't upload at a speed that I feel you all deserve. So I upload to Twitch at hot garbage bitrate. And I encode to disk at a higher bitrate, and then I do those uploads overnight so that YouTube gets the high quality version. So, my bad. Compiling. That was me, sweetheart. Ugh. Okay, I'm curious if we've got lag going on. So, can someone do me a favor? Can someone please type the word now into chat now? I want to see how much of a lag we have. Probably coming up about 10 seconds. 11, 12. We've got a lot of lag going on. That's my bad. That's incredibly poor form now. Okay, thank you. That was probably about 30 seconds. I've got a comp at PCCG. You can use the Melbourne talk to pick it up. Okay, cool. No, that really... my load's dropped. Has the build finished? The build's finished. Cool. The main thing is the monitor and my microphone. And me thinking of excuses for taking a few weeks off. I should dual stream on live coding. Yeah, maybe I'll do like a restream thing. I'm hoping to one day reach partner on Twitch. So I'm trying to do the right thing by Twitch and keep. The other thing is with dual streaming, it would split the audience null. I want to encourage people to I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube because you're busy of an evening in Australia, or it's a really shit time zone for you, totally cool. You do you, and I'm really glad. By the way, shout outs to YouTube. Thank you so much for your support on YouTube. I understand that it's hard to make the stream time, so your patronage over there is still very much appreciated. But I'd love for people to all join the same chat. I wouldn't like to have two separate chats, null, while streaming. I want to bring us all together as a big, happy hacker family. 17 seconds delay. Hopefully it's dropping. Hopefully Twitch is able to kind of catch us up. If you're not caught up, I guess if you're feeling a bit behind, maybe if you refresh, then you'll actually catch up to RVM, because my build's finished now. So the dropped frames should have finished. I agree, Mugu. I should have done that. I should have made sure that the build was niced, be it using Docker C groups or be it by nicing the build. In fact, I would have thought RVM would be nicing the build, but maybe nice across containers kind of breaks a little bit. You're right, Mugu. That was my bad. I need to look into that for next time. Thankfully, I'm not building software on stream too much, but that's a learning lesson for me, I think, to not build stuff on stream. Should we get back to the computer hacking? We've been going for almost an hour and haven't actually hacked anything. Just waffled about RVM and gotten sidetracked by chat. I love it, but we should give the people what they came here to see. So we've CD'd into Metasploit, we've done the build, and we CD out of Metasploit, and it says now using System Ruby. Maybe that's new with 1.28.0. I didn't see it using 1.27.0. But if we CD back into Metasploit framework, we see some stuff that a gem set got created, generating some wrappers. Okay, we CD back out of it, we CD into Metasploit. Okay, so we don't see this anymore for some reason. So we're outside of the Metasploit framework directory. If we do which Ruby, then we're using 2.3.3. Sudo apt update and sudo apt install Ruby. Bear with me 1 second. I want to try something, because that kind of surprises me a little bit. Maybe I need a system Ruby for it to be what I thought it was going to be. So let's go and get us a system Ruby. I would have thought RVM would give him my system one back. That kind of sucks. It's going to break the demo I was about to do. Anyway, that totally breaks the reason why I build stuff. I wanted to prove that the Ruby would switch when we CD in between Metasploit and Metasploit. For me to actually show the switching, I guess I'd need to install another Ruby for something like WP scan, which I don't want to do because dropped frames. That destroys the demo. That makes me... Anyway, the point... Breathe. We've now got RVM installed, and we've used RVM to install the Metasploit, the Ruby that Metasploit craves, which is 2.3.3. And the idea would be that when we CD into Metasploit, it would... Actually, you know what we can do? Let's go and create a directory called test. Let's vim test /ruby-version 2.3.0. CD test. Yeah, so now we CD to test where we've got this Ruby version saying it's 2.3.0, and RVM complains that Ruby 2.3.0 is not installed. If we do which Ruby, it's still pointing at the Metasploit one. But I bet if we did this install, which I'm not going to do, then RVM would automatically switch between the two when we CD between Metasploit and this test directory. And that's the purpose of RVM, is to automatically switch your Ruby so that it matches the directory that you've just CD'd into. Or you can do RVM use /Metasploit. We can do RVM use /test. And that will also switch between... In fact, did that do it for us? Which Ruby? No, it's still the Metasploit one. You can also do RVM use, and that will let you switch the Ruby being used without having to do the CD. But by default, the CD thing is also supported. CD Metasploit, it switches to Ruby. If we CD into test, then we get some complaints. That's the whole thing of what RVM does. It lets you install RVMs into /.rvm/rubies/ it goes and puts them all there, and they're all full-blown built rubies for a particular version. RVM will automatically switch between them as you drift between your different projects that have different dependencies that depend on different versions of RVM. So that's the idea of RVM. Switches your rubies. It installs them and switches them. So the bugs. How I found these bugs was, let's go and just make directory, empty directory. What actually made me think I should look into this whole region of the RVM code is the fact that when you cd into empty directory, that happens, right? Nothing really too exciting there. But there's this thing you can do, which in bash is to set -x. And what set -x does is it enables debugging information so that when you do things inside bash, debug stuff prints to the screen. If I was to now run id, then we get this thing here saying that id was run, and here's the output of it. If we were to, vim doot.shell and create a shell script which does id, who am I, uname. Now if we do set +x to turn off the debugging, and we do chmod u+x doot.shell. If we run doot.shell, then we'll get the ID, the who am I, and the uname output, right? Now if we do set -x and run doot.shell again, it doesn't do what I thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to actually print things being run as they were being run. Obviously I don't understand set too well, but the idea is that where possible, it should print debugging information that kind of... Actually, can we bash function? How do we create a function inside bash? Maybe we'll get the function calls. Function name, squigglies. Let's try this. Let's vim doot function func id squigglies. Function func who am I does who am I, and same thing for uname func uname does uname. Then I'm going to call func id func who am I, can't type, and func uname. What if calling functions? Function not found. How do you do functions? It's a shell script. Hang on. Vim. Dude. In fact, you know what? Maybe if we'd made this a bash script all along, then the set -x may have worked. Nope. I'm still stupid. Never mind. The idea is that set -x should, in some circumstances, actually print out debugging information to do with what you just did. That's what I was trying to get at. If we turn it off, if we cd into that empty directory, we get nothing. If we do set -x and cd into the empty directory, we get a lot of stuff printed out with these pluses in front of it, which is all the set -x output. Now, if we do this as Justin, who does not have RVM installed in the Docker container, if we make directory empty, actually we should run bash to be on level playing field. mcdir empty directory, cd into it, nothing happens. If we go set -x and cd into it, that's all we did, cd. All this extra junk that got printed out was RVM's hooking of cd and all the different things that RVM does every time you do a cd. Doesn't matter if you're cding into your home directory or an empty directory or a full directory or a directory with a Ruby project in it or a directory without a Ruby project in it. RVM will always execute a lot of code every time you use cd to do what it does. I mean, It has to look at all the files in the current directory so that it can figure out if you've just CD'd into a Ruby project. And if you have CD'd into a Ruby project, it needs to make some decisions and take some actions based on that finding to do what it says it does on the tin, to manage your Ruby versions for you. Conversely, stuff like RVM doesn't hook CD. It uses shimming technology to deliver the same sort of outcome with a lot less complexity and a lot less functionality. But to be honest, I've found RVM plus the Ruby build plugin to be more than sufficient for my Ruby management needs. I haven't needed the extra functionality that comes with RVM, and in my opinion, it adds a lot of attack surface. So that's the difference between the two. But so I saw this one day. I was doing some bash script debugging and had set -x turned on and did a CD and saw this just, I'm just going to scroll. Scrolling. There it is. It starts here. There's several pages of it. I saw that just pour onto my terminal going, whoa. RVM does a lot of things every time I use CD. I should have a look at what it's doing. So I did, and I found some bugs. So if we go set +x to turn that off, then we'll dive into /.rvm. So this is where all the code that RVM has with it lives. In fact, you know what? Now is the perfect time to take a quick 5-minute breather. When we get back, we'll be looking at the code that RVM is built up of. I'm going to see if I can basically find my feet again. I haven't looked at the code for a little while now. I'm going to see if I can find my feet without referring to the advisory. But let's take, for now, a quick 5-minute breather, get ourselves some adult beverages, or a glass of water, or get the tendies out of the oven. Whatever it is that you need to do, now is the time to do it. And I'll see you on the other side of this short break. And we're back. Hope you made the most of it, made the most of the break. Did I see that Singularity doesn't have attendees this week? 0 attendees this evening, unfortunately. Singularity, we are disappointed. I was shocked, by the way. As many of you may know, I am vegetarian. I try not to be too preachy about it. But I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson that tweeted that the Super Bowl day is a bad day to be a chicken. Actually, any day is a bad day to be a chicken. Americans eat 1 million chickens per hour on average. Which, when you find out, I think that the population of America is 220 million. Population of USA, 320 million. My bad. They're the same order of magnitude, only off by 100 mil. When you think about that, then it's like, well, 1 million chickens an hour, 24 million chickens a day. That means the average person eats 1 chicken every 10 and a bit days, which isn't that surprising. But still, like, you think about the scale of industrialism that has to be applied to animal farming to meet the demands of 1 million chooks an hour. I found that to be quite scary. But you know what, Singularity, don't let me stop you. You enjoy your attendees. I 100% support your attendee habit. KFC makes it possible, yeah. I mean, I guess you think about it, people are having pulled chicken on burritos and in burrito bowls, and I love burrito bowls. Chicken loaf on sandwiches, chicken breast for dinner. Like, it adds up, wings, KFC. Look in Australia as to how many chickens we eat per hour. Yeah, I don't know if that data would. I just found that data about Americans was quite shocking. So RVM, chicken farming and whatnot aside, let's talk about RVM. So, as we saw with set minus X turned on, RVM does a hell of a lot for you every time you use CD. Let's get two windows going. Let's sudo -u RVM interactively. That's not my password. This is my password. Wrong machine. There we go. We got two shells. There's a lot going on here. So we know that when you cd into a directory that .ruby version is being looked for, right? So if we cd into test, then we see that RVM has noticed the desire for Ruby 2.3.0 based on this file here, .ruby version. So if we, do I have ag installed? I do. If we ag for .ruby version inside /RVM, which is where all the code for RVM lives, we get some hits, right? So if we scroll through these, let's see if any of these stand out to us as being places in which we may wish to look to further explore some of the things that are being done on every CD. Note that I didn't exhaustively audit everything that happens upon CD, just the stuff to do with the files that I thought would be interesting, that I could control. So if we scroll through these, what's interesting in... Oh, we didn't search for a literal dot. That's my bad. We should search for a literal dot there. Let's try again. Let's see. What in these looks interesting? Well, I can tell you, spoiler, that's what's interesting, because it's checking to see if any of these file names match. Maybe this one could be interesting. What did I highlight a second ago? Because that wasn't the interesting one. Source/. Okay, so source/ isn't interesting. Scripts/functions/rvmrc project. This is the file within which I found a bunch of bugs. So this is the file that we're going to basically zoom in on tonight. What have I missed? I saw my ears were burning. Shout me a couple of vegetarian beers, by the way of thanks. Oh, Singularity, you look out for me, don't you? Yeah, existing, and yeah, look out for Null. Null is savage. Script slash functions slash RVMRC project. This is what I found to be interesting. So if we dive into an editor and vim this file, we don't get syntax highlighting because my vim's not set up for this user. Dang it, can we go syntax on? Hey, there we go, we've got syntax highlighting. Okay, so we've got a function here. Checks the RVMRC for the given directory. Note that if argument is passed, it will be used instead of pwd. Maybe this function here is what's being called to actually consume all of the files in pwd, being the present working directory, to do things like Ruby version switching. So we read through it, we scroll down, blah blah blah. RVM load project config. This here stood out to me. This is when I started to go, I think I'm in the right area. We've got a case statement here, right? That's looping over a bunch of things. It's looking for files in the current directory called things like .rvmrc, .versions.conf, .ruby-version should be coming up. We've got gem file. And here's our .ruby version, right? So these, we're looking for the existence of certain files, right? Things like .ruby version. And then we're actually carving them up and using tr-d to kind of manipulate the contents of those files and read them into variables, and then probably do stuff based on those variables. But if we go up to, the one I found to be most interesting was versions.conf. Send me a whisper. Is there another video of me on Facebook? My Twitch UI is a bit screwy right now. What have we got here? Click and links and whispers is not recommended. Oh yeah, like a whole bunch of stats about the population of America and stuff. Gotcha. Alright, people who are curious about what was whispered to me, wasn't a video on Facebook that ends up not being of me. So it's a bunch of stats to do with the population of the US. The idea of a clock is kind of interesting. I guess you can watch it tick over. Yeah, wow. The USA is a big place. There's a lot of people there, isn't there? Yeah, wow. So I guess that's why Americans eat 1 million chooks an hour. There's a lot of them. Very cool. Thank you for that. So .versions.conf ended up being pretty interesting. So I was reading through this going, okay, so what's going on with this code? The RVM current RVMRC is $1, which I think is going to be the string.versions.conf. I guess $1 comes out of this case statement, maybe. I'm not. To be honest, I'm not fantastic with Bash scripting. The idea of Bash scripting, like complex, I can do simple Bash scripts, but I don't know, like things get out of hand really quickly in Bash. When things get above about 10 lines and I've got to make decisions in a Bash script, it turns into a Python script pretty quickly. So for example, the RVM Ruby string equals, let's go and get rid of all the whack R's from the file, which I guess is basically like DOS to Unix, getting rid of the carriage returns and just leaving the line feeds there. And then we do an RVM sed, and sed is used to find and replace most often. We RVM sed, we look for the beginning of the line Ruby equals and replace it with something. I'm not good at reading sed either. And then we tail it. So I'm guessing, like, for example, if we had a .versions.conf, let's go and rm.rubyversion. Let's vim.versions.conf. In fact, this is also a good resource. This helped me get my bearings. RVM versions.conf. Yeah, workflow/projects. This doco helped me. RVM supports multiple types of files to allow configuring a project for automated Ruby switching. Make sure to add these to your version control systems as it is part of the project's configuration. So listed in order of precedence. .versions.conf ended up being something that made the bugs easiest to trigger for me. Get my chat had to close my chat because the Twitch UI was getting screwy. Let's pop that out. I've got 2 chats now. That'll do. Diversions.conf ended up being the one that helped me trigger most of the bugs. So diversions.conf, what does it look like? It looks like this. Ruby equals Ruby slash something. Ruby gem set equals something. Env something equals something. Right, okay. So let's go Ruby equals. What do I need to do? Ruby dash. Yep, Ruby dash 2.3.3. Ruby dash. So let's go 2.0.0 for now. cd dot dot cd test. And there we go. Ruby 2.0.0 patch 648 is not installed. Blah blah blah. So that .versions.conf, which looks like this, got parsed by this code up here, I'm guessing. So for example, we can just go and do some debug by print. We can go and add in after this RVM Ruby string equals. Let's just go and do echo debug RVM Ruby string equals $RVM Ruby string. Alright, so now if we do, whoops, did I save that? RVM reload, cd dot dot cd to test. There we go, we get our little debug string saying, hey, RVM Ruby string equals Ruby dash 2.0.0. Right? So we've identified using debug by print the part of the code that we're actually in. So we can see that this part of the code is actually being triggered when we cd into the test directory. So then we do RVM gemset name equals, and we set another variable to be, we set another variable of RVM gemset name equals something, RVM create flag equals something, some bash isn't equals 1 space, an internal function name or return 3. Okay, cool, no worries. Env vars prefix equals env dash. Env vars file equals $1, which is .versions.conf. Gem names equals, we'll skip that. Bundle install, I think we'll come back to that later. But this env vars is really interesting to me. If we scroll down. Okay, so after the end of this case statement maybe, look for env vars. It's not what I wanted. Where's my versions.conf? Env underscore vars underscore prefix. Let's copy that. Let's search for that. Next, next, next. Okay, so then we later on in the function we call RVM project ruby env load env vars file otherwise dash env vars prefix otherwise dash. So let's not dive into the code of this. Actually, you know what? Let's dive into the code of this. Let's copy that. Is this in this file here? There it is. All right. So inside this function, what we do is we're being passed. Actually, you know what? Let's go and add some debug there. Let's go echo debug $1. Let's go 1 equals $1, 2 equals $2. Right? Really simple stuff. Actually, let's go and wrap these in single quotes. Oops. Just so that there's spaces in there, we don't get too confused. So this should give us the parameters that were passed to this function. RVM reload, cd dot dot cd test, and we don't get debug. Okay. Let me just try something. And foo equals bar. Didn't get the debug. Why is that not triggering? I did reload, didn't I? Yeah, I did. We're just going to add a quick echo 1337. Let's see if we get this far. No, don't get that far. Okay. Why are we not getting... So for .versions.conf, envars prefix equals that. Ah, it's probably because we don't have a Ruby installed that's being desired. Okay. I think we're good. Let's go on vim versions.conf to be Ruby equals system. Magic value system. And this just means tell RVM. It means that RVM should use the system Ruby and not use a RVM provided Ruby. I think the fact that we were getting this error here means that things were being errored out of, and we weren't getting down to the call to the function, this one here, that had our debug statement in it. So hopefully now that we're going to get rid of this error message, because the Ruby equals system means that it will always, succeed and get through to the end of the function. We should be fine. Hopefully we get the debug this time. cd ... cd test. There we go. We got our leet, which I just got rid of, and we got a debug. So 1 equals the path to .versions.conf. 2 equals env dash. That env dash came from this here. Yeah, for .versions.conf, it hard codes the prefix to be env dash, and the env vars file is the full path to .versions.conf. This is my song for tonight. Null, I will check that out tonight. I've learnt to not click on links that you send me, especially on stream. So I'll check that out later. If anyone else wants to click this, you do so at your own risk, and if you're offended, you can blame Null. I'm taking no responsibility. Yeah, there you go. That's why I've learnt not to click Null's links on stream. So we've got some debug. The function that we're interested in, let's go and look for that debug string. Here it is. The function we're interested in here has the first argument set to the full path to versions.conf, and the second argument is set to env dash. That's fine. Then what do? We do some sed commands. We filter other content and remove prefix. So we do things like get rid of the env dash from the beginning of lines. We remove comments. We get rid of any line that begins with a pound. We filter and we do not allow command execution using backticks or $bracket, and we remove empty lines. And then we do RVM read lines into variables, I'm guessing, from cat $1, then echo a new line, and then sed some stuff. Okay, and that becomes underscore variables maybe. So we're setting underscore variables. So if at the end of this function, let's go and get rid of this debug. So let's get rid of it. Let's just go echo debug underscore variables equals $_ variables. And let's RVM reload cd ... cd into test. Variables is empty, all right? Because we didn't actually have any lines that begin with that env dash, I think it was. Yeah, env dash. Let's go and put some in. Let's go vim.versions.conf and go env foo equals bar. Let's see what happens. Cd to test. And we get, okay, variables is now set to foo equals bar. Right. And we can see if we go and look at the doco for versions conf, then the env stuff looks like it's for actually setting environment variables. So this makes sense. This kind of syntax is starting to make sense. So then after this call here, what happens with underscore variables? Let's go back to the call to this function. Really? Really? .versions.conf. I'm looking for references to this here. Okay, so at this point, __ variables is set to foo equals bar, and we can control that if we are the author of .versions.conf. What happens with __ variables later on? We call RVM project ruby env load set env at some point. Talk about a mouthful. And we're doing that on the variables array, right? Okay, we're falling really deep and dark into some very deep and dark places of Bash here. I'm just going to skip ahead to the spoiler and point out that this is used for setting environment variables. In fact, if we do cd ... let's go and get rid of that debug, by the way. Get rid of the debug. There we go. RVM reload. If we do the set -x trick again and cd to test, and if we just search backwards through our terminal for capital foo, then we can see that yeah, it's during this RVM project ruby env load set env that foo equals bar was being passed. And we actually saw this in the editor a second ago. It was right here. Right, so if we actually scroll back, we can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff being done. There's some quoting being done, and we end up doing an eval. Actually, do a couple of evals. Right. So if we kind of scrub down through this log here, then we can see that we're iterating over stuff. We're setting keys and values to be foo and bar, and we're spitting out some debug stuff. If you turn on RVM's debugging, you'd see that. Excuse me. Blah blah blah. Eval RVM saved end. Blah blah blah. We end up doing eval export key equals bar, which ends up being export foo equals bar. So what this is doing is it's setting environment variables, right? If we cd to the home directory, turn off that garbage. If we do echo $foo, it's empty. If we cd into test and echo $foo again, we'll see we actually get bar. You know, so the .versions.conf file by design actually sets environment variables, and RVM respects that wish. And it exports stuff into the environment. So this to me started to be like, okay, cool. So if I can control the contents of a directory and put a .versions.conf in there with env foo equals bar, then all the code that we just kind of slowly walked our way through, which ended up actually being a much longer journey than I thought it was going to be, just due to the way in which the code's been exploded. Then we see that this whole thing here is for setting environment variables. So this is interesting because if we go into versions.conf, then we can not just set things like the environment variable called foo, but we could set the environment variable called foo2 to be bar. And we cd into test, echo $foo2, and we've got it set to bar. So I started thinking, all right, if I could set any environment variable to whatever I wanted, which one would I pick and what would I set it to? Started doing some experimentation and found out that the environment variable called ps1 actually executes whatever you put in it as a shell command. ps1, if you're not aware, is used to set your prompt, right? If I just echo $ps1 right now, then you get this, you know, $Debian chroot or plus bracket $bash is a lovely language. Then you get whack_u at whack_h colon whack_w whack$, which ends up being the whack_u is your username, the at is just at, the whack_h is your machine's host name, the colon is actually a colon, whack_w is your working directory, which is this here, and the whack$ is just $. So you can do things like, let's go and create a new window really quickly. Bash. Let's go export ps1 equals doot dollar space, doot dollar space, and there's our prompt. Doot dollar space. You can change your own prompt, and you can do things like put fancy color codes in. You can have different fields. Like I choose to have the time so that I can at a glance kind of see when I was doing certain things throughout the day. You can wrap things in brackets. You can do colors. You can do all sorts of neat stuff. In this case, we'll just set our prompt to be doot dollar. Or we can set it to be doot underscore doot dollar. And there it is. There's our new prompt. What am I missing in chat? I thought my chat just went ding. Did it not? Didn't miss anything. I thought I saw a... Oh, hang on, someone hosted me maybe. Okay, I've got hosts going on. Thank you to everyone hosting me. I appreciate your love. What's cool about PS1 though is that we're in single quotes here, so whatever we put in here is going through literally. Like you can go and do things like dollar. Actually, you know what? For example, like if we do echo doot, we get doot. If we go on echo, if we do in double quotes and do dollar $PWD, we actually get the environment variable expand. If we go and do dollar bracket ID, then we get that going. Hang on, crap. How did I do this? I've just had a moment where it's like, hang on, how did this even work in the first place? If we export PS1 equals doot dollar space, we get that. Okay, we're fine. The escaping's being done, but then it gets passed to eval. We're gonna be fine. Sorry, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. I just freaked out. I'm like, how did I exploit this? Because I thought they were escaping stuff. As you just saw there when I just had a moment, you can put even in single quoted strings, so that way they're properly escaped, or if they're in double quoted strings, you could whack and escape the dollar. You can do command execution inside your PS1, right? Like if we export foo equals bar dollar bracket ID bracket in single quotes, and then we go and echo dollar foo, nothing interesting happens, right? Because it's an environment variable that's been set inside single quotes, which means that expansion doesn't happen. Everything's fine, no code execution. However, if we do export PS1 equals bar dollar ID with the brackets, I'm just going to put a colon there to help delimit stuff a bit. You'll see that we get the bar, and then we get code execution. All because PS1, the environment variable PS1, if we echo $PS1, we'll see that it actually has the legitimate dollar brackets inside it. It's not expanded. But as soon as your shell shows it as your prompt, it will actually get evaluated as shell script and executed. So, this is all a long way about going. We've got this .versions.conf. We can actually do env PS1 equals, bar dollar space, right? CD ... everything's fine. CD into test. Well, hey, look at that. RVM will go and change your prompt based on the wishes of a .versions.conf in a directory that you've changed into, right? Because .versions.conf can change any environment variable when you CD into the directory. So that's the crux of the issue, the fact that you can change the PS1 environment variable. If we go on vim.versions.conf and set the PS1 to be, let's go new line, code execution as $ID, new line, bar dollar space, right? If we save that there as our versions.conf file, it's going to set the PS1 every time you CD into it to be a couple of new lines. I noticed that there's code execution. It's going to print out the ID of the person who's executing code, a couple of new lines, and then print you a nice little short prompt. CD ... Prompt goes back to normal. CD into test. There we go. We get code execution as soon as you cd into a directory that I control, if you've got a vulnerable version of RVM installed. Now you may be asking, well Justin, how are you going to get me to cd into a directory you control? This is an issue on multi-user systems. For example, servers. You know, you've got a server in production that multiple people, multiple sysadmins are SSHing into. One sysadmin could compromise another sysadmin by going and putting .versions.conf in /temp and waiting for the victim to cd to /temp to do some stuff. That sysadmin will get popped, and that may help the lower privileged sysadmin escalate privileges. Or maybe someone hacked a low-priv sysadmin account and wants to escalate. They may drop a .versions.conf in /temp and wait for a high-privileged sysadmin to cd to /temp, then they get popped. What if I gave you a tarball and said, hey, extract this, it's got funny cat videos in it, and you extracted it, and then you cd'd into the directory you just extracted? I could compromise you. You haven't run anything. You haven't even looked at the cat videos yet. It may just be text files. I may go, it's just ASCII cat pictures. You're gonna cat them. Get it? You're gonna cat the cat pictures. There's no image that you could open and be exploited with, but little did you know, if you've got RVM installed, simply by extracting my tarball and cding into the directory, I can actually cause code execution as you. What about a Git repo? Maybe I've published some stuff and I've said, hey, go and Git clone this. If you Git clone it and then cd into it, you can become compromised. So the ways in which that this could be exploited, I'm going to leave to the imagination of chat. But yeah, if you've got an old version of RVM installed, I recommend that at the very least you patch it so that this doesn't happen to you when you cd into a malicious directory. I've personally switched to RBenv, and for the reasons discussed prior, you may wish to consider the same sort of thing. I feel it takes a much simpler approach to implementing the Ruby switching. So that's one of the bugs. We may have time to go through a couple more. In fact, there's at least one more that we will go through. So many ways to pwn. Exactly. You just got to be creative. Which is why I thought this was a cool bug, because it's not just it's not a remote bug. But it's not a local bug either. It's kind of like the Excel macro thing, but for tarballs on Unix systems with RVM installed. Like it's this code that shouldn't be executing when you open something that shouldn't have things execute when you open it. I thought it was just a really interesting thing, and the opportunities abound for creative uses for it, I think. For example, what if there's a web app and you can upload files to it and they're images and they get saved to an uploads directory, but you can control the file name and the contents? Go and chuck a .versions.conf up on that server and see if a sysadmin CDs to the images directory. That could be interesting. Lots of ways in which to abuse this, I think. And the interesting thing is, once you CD out of this directory, everything goes back to normal as well. And as well as that, if you want to make this more sneaky, you can go ahead and vim test/.versions.conf, and you can set env ps1 to be, let's get rid of the new lines. Let's go and set it to be bracket $bracket ID $2/temp/win. Get rid of the new lines, get rid of all this, and let's just finish it off with $ps1. So ps1 is going to become subshell ID, send its output to tempwin, and then print the old prompt out, right? So we're in our home directory, cat tempwin, nothing there, cd into test. That looks normal to me, nothing weird going on. Cat tempwin, there it is. So you don't need to kind of be a real showboaty show off like this up here. You can use this bug in a stealthy fashion. You can have it do its dirty work in the background and actually not go and muck with the prompt. In fact, if you wanted to get really nasty, let's go and remove tempwin. Let's go on vim.versions.conf. Let's do a subshell. Let's send ID to tempwin and then remove .versions.conf. Right? So we cd ... we ls-la what's in test. There's a versions.conf file there. We cat temp win. We remove that. Cat temp win. And there's nothing there, right? As soon as you cd into test, cat temp win. There it is. Oh, we got an error. I'm trying to remove versions.conf on every single time the prompt gets printed, so we can't have that. I was going to say let's go and edit versions.conf, but you know what? I deleted it as part of the payload. So you can do things like, I mean, all you need to do with this is tell RM to send its stder to dev null. But you could actually make this be something that cleans up after itself. You know, runs the malicious payload, and as soon as it's run, gets rid of the .versions.conf file, so that the victim is none the wiser. There's just a lot of really, I think, interesting ways that this can be thought about. It made me happy when I found it. It tickled me greatly. All through an innocuous seeming file in a directory, you get pwned when you do a CD. Let's do another bug. In fact, it's right here on screen, almost. It was almost on screen. Here it is. This here. What it does is it scrubs the environment variable values before setting them, right? And it does things like this sed command to look for backtick and replace it with backtick. It looks for $bracket and replaces it with \$bracket, right? For example, let's go into test vim.versions.conf and set the Ruby to equals system and foo equals bar. Let's go bar $bracket ID, right? cd ... cd test echo $foo. We literally get $bracket ID in that environment variable. Okay. Now, the reason why this escaping here is important is because the way that the actual exporting of this into the environment has been implemented is using eval. So let's scroll down, and let's scroll down to this here. Eval export key equals value. Let's just go and chuck a really cheeky echo debug key equals $_ key value equals $_ value, right? I'm just going to, before this eval gets done, I'm going to really do a really cheeky echo of what both those things are set to, right? RVM reload, and we straight away got it. Let's cd out of it. Let's cd to test. We get key equals foo, value equals bar \$ $ID. Now, remember in versions.conf, we didn't have this backslash there, right? Just $bracket. The reason why putting this backslash in was important. We did it back here with this sed, by the way. Any instance of $bracket gets turned into \$ $bracket, right? So the reason why after this debug, the fact that it needed to be escaped with the backslash is because we're about to pass it to eval export blah blah blah. When you do eval, right? Let's do eval export fizz equals buzz, right? So we're going to eval export fizz equals buzz. If we echo $fizz, there it is, buzz. The issue is even if you do an eval with single quotes, which should not allow entity expansion of anything inside. If you go and do whack an ID in here, and then echo your fizz, there's your output of ID. Eval in any language is always something to be very careful of. If an attacker can include their own input within an eval statement, bad things abound. Because when this gets evaluated, it gets interpolated as bash syntax. And this here is valid bash syntax, even though it's inside straight quotes. Which if you do echo with these straight quotes here, the ID doesn't expand. It's only when you eval that this gets expanded during the evaluation and ensures that when you echo $fizz, there she is. So, again, we cd ... cd test, and we get this key equals foo, value equals bar whack $ID. So it looks like this. Eval, export, foo equals, it's right here, you know, export, key equals the value. In fact, does that mean it's escaped? I think it does. Oh man, if they'd only escaped this, it probably wouldn't have been vulnerable. Maybe. But then why'd they escape it up above? Nah, I don't know. It was vulnerable. Either way, it's vulnerable. Whoops, let's go foo equals, let's go and just copy this here, this value. So when you do this eval here, it's an escaped $ID, right? So when you do echo foo, it's hasn't been expanded. There was no opportunity for code to run, all thanks to this backslash. Now, what's interesting is the way in which that backslash was put there. It was done through sed with this pattern, right? So now if we do echo foo into, let's go and not make it capitals. Echo foo into sed -e, this pattern, it's going to substitute, which is what the S means, any instance of $. Is this a bug? Because they're regex characters. Huh. You know what? Even if this is 0 day, it's been paved over. This whole .versions.conf or any of the files being able to set environment variables has been put behind a warning that you have to actually explicitly say, yes, I understand this is not safe, I still want to do it anyway. So even if this here is a bug, how are they putting... Does sed not support regex? Like these regex meta characters maybe. Let's go echo foo into sed dash. Let's do it anyway. It's going to replace, let's trust it. It's going to replace $bracket with a backslash $bracket, right? It must work, because it was working up here before. So maybe, yeah, it must work. I must misunderstand sed, or maybe they do some munging later on. So now if we echo foo $bracket ID, yeah, it does work. Sorry, I'm silly. If we echo foo $bracket ID into this sed here, it's going to replace every single $bracket with backslash $bracket. Now, I'm sure someone in chat has already seen the bug and pointed it out, or someone who's read the advisory knows the bug and has pointed it out. Maybe not. Escaping, yeah. Yes, Noel. Yes, escaping, yes. So, the issue is, it's gonna successfully turn foo $bracket ID into a backslash $bracket ID. However, what if we put our own backslash in beforehand? Is it still going to see this $bracket, put a backslash in front of it, and then turn it into foo backslash $bracket ID? Yes, it is. This sed statement here is going to prefix every instance of $bracket ID with one backslash $ like this, right here. It doesn't realize that we actually had a backslash in front already, so now the backslash that we brought to the party will escape the backslash that the escaping brought to the party, and the $bracket ID is hanging out all by itself. To prove the point, if we echo this here, it's safe, right? Because this $ is escaped using this backslash. Comes out just fine. However, if we echo this one here, what do we think is going to happen? I think what will happen is that the backslashes will kind of escape themselves. They'll stick together. You know, this backslash here will escape that backslash there and make it a literal backslash. And this will get expanded as per normal command substitution. There it is. We get a literally escaped backslash in there, followed by our nonsense. So what does this mean for RVM? So right, remember how this end foo equals bar. Let's just jump out, jump back in. This here in the .versions.conf file caused key equals foo to be set to the value double quote bar backslash $ID. If we echo $foo, then it wasn't interesting, all right? However, if we edit versions.conf and sneak in our own backslash before the $ID, cd ... cd test, then we get the debug statement that we added in. It tells us that the key foo is being set to the value bar backslash $ID, which we saw from up here ends in bad times. If we echo $foo, then there we go. While this was being set, we got command execution. It's not while you're showing it, it's while it's being set. And so to prove that, let's rm our temp win file, vim versions.conf, edit this here, edit this ID to send its output to /temp/win, and save it. cd ... cat temp win, nothing there. cd test, cat temp win, there we go. So we get command execution as soon as you cd into the directory, all due to the fact that the escaping on stuff that was being evaled was broken, and we control .versions.conf, we control what's going to be escaped, we can exploit the escaping bug and give unescaped input to eval, which always ends in super bad times. A further POC for this is to, instead of redirecting the output of ID to temp win, send it to standard error, which means it won't be a part of the environment variable being set, it'll just get punched to the terminal. So let's go ahead and do echo command execution as how am I going to do this? Let's go and make this sh-c. Echo command execution as :ID to %2. So that means that the sh-c will run this here, which will do the echo command execution as, it'll run ID, and it'll send all of the output of that to standard error, which means we'll see it as soon as the CD happens. Let's just put a couple of new lines at the beginning, a couple of new lines at the end. cd ... cd test. Oops, and we get a bash error. Unterminated quoted string. What have I done? I don't think it likes the double quotes, maybe. We should be able to do single quotes. CD test. And there it is. As soon as you CD, we get command execution straight off the bat. So that's bug number 2. What's the time? 9:30. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute breather. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll take a quick 5-minute breather and then we'll go through one more bug. And then the other 2 we'll leave to people to read in the advisory. 5-minute break. I'll be back on the other side for one more bug. Go and grab your attendees.
from beneath the sand. Those that take me across seem so far away. Across this universe, she lives another day. I know the reason she stays. I know the reason she's so far away. I know the reason she stays. I know the reason she's so far away.
Alrighty, I've had my little breather. Let's get the last bug I want to cover out of the way. And this one to me was this was a silly one. This one shouldn't have been. We don't need this. Let's get rid of that. This one shouldn't have been a bug. Let's look at the RVM doco for hooks. I can't remember how I actually stumbled upon this one. I think I saw it in the -x. Actually, let's check the -x output. Do I still have empty directory? Yes. Set -x, cd empty directory. Let's have a look through here. Let's look for hook. Yeah, so it was here that I saw it. Hooks equals empty array. The directory home RVM /.rvm /hooks exists, then hooks plus equals the RVM hooks path. That's the internal hooks, so you can actually have global hooks in /.rvm /hooks, which isn't interesting for exploitation because if you can control the contents of /.rvm, you can just go and backdoor RVM and you win anyway, so that's not interesting. Then I saw this, home RVM empty directory /.rvm /hooks is not equal to home rvm.rvm hooks. So making sure that this string is not equal to that string, and then checking if the directory exists. And this would have failed because this directory does not exist. Right? If we do -d /home /rvm /.rvm and echo OK, then we get OK because this conditional succeeds, right? This does exist as a directory. /home /rvm /rvm does exist as a directory, therefore we do echo OK. Does that /hooks exist as a directory? Yes, that exists. We're doing this as Justin, but RVM has a world readable home, so we can do this as Justin. That's fine. Yes, this directory also exists, so we echo OK. Alrighty. Does that does .rvm /hooks asdf exist as a directory? No, we don't get the OK. So this is not a directory. So that's what this double square bracket -d syntax means. It's checking to see if this exists as a directory, right? So like we look here, does this exist as a directory? Yes, it does. Therefore, we did this. That makes a bit of sense to me. We appended onto the hooks array the $rvm hooks path. I can tell you now that the RVM hooks path is that. Then we did this. Does the directory home RVM empty directory .rvm /hooks exist? Nah, it didn't, so we probably in our -x output didn't see the result of what would have happened otherwise. Let's go and make directory -p. Actually, let's go and set +x to get rid of our debug output. -p .rvm /hooks, right? So that means that let's go and cd to it, do a pwd. This directory, which we saw being referenced in that -x output, will now exist as a directory. You know, the empty directory /.rvm/hooks. So let's go back to home. Let's turn our -x back on. And now let's see what happens in that -x output now that this does exist as a directory. CD to test.
Everything changes.
And let's go back up and look for that hooks again. Here it is. -d, home RVM test. I didn't want to be in test. Oops, my bad. I wanted to go to empty directory. That was my mistake. Let's look for hooks again. So where's that -d? Here it is. -d/home/rvm/empty directory. It's not an empty directory anymore. It's now got hooks in it, but you get the idea. That does exist as a directory. So now we do hooks plus equal $pwd/.rvm/hooks. So in the hooks array, there's now an entry for hooks that the current directory controls. That's interesting. That's really interesting. What do these hooks do? This here looks like it's an expanded version of hooks. We do hooks list equals RVM find. We look for files in the directories of as per hooks, where the iname is RVM hook star, the type is file, blah blah blah. We then look for stuff that's named after _CD star and is of type file. And then for hook in the hooks list, we check if it's executable, and we probably execute it. That's probably the idea. Let's look at the RVM doco for hooks. Hooks, yeah, here they are. So the documentation, what does this say? RVM supports several hooks. After CD is triggered whenever a user uses the CD command. Each hook is a file in ~.rvm/hooks/hook name. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. There's nothing in this page that talks about the fact that hooks can exist in PWD. Right? What if we go back to the code? Let's ag for hooks. That was probably a really bad idea. Do we get any hint in here as to a string we can look for? _hooks_list. Let's look for that there. Let's ag for _hooks_list. That looks a lot more manageable. So we get this file, scripts/hook. Let's have a look at scripts/hook. Set syntax on equals on. Space on. No syntax highlighting for us. Oh well. Let's look at this. Let's look at this hooks file. So we've got the hooks equals empty array. We check to see if the directory RVM hooks path exists, which is ~.rvm/hooks. And if it does exist, then we append it to the hooks array. Then we check if pwd/.rvm/hooks is not equal to the ~.rvm/hooks. And if so, is it a directory? And if so, then we append something in pwd to the hooks array. And then if it's a non-empty, if the array is a non-empty string, I think this means, then the hooks list equals we find all the things as per RVM_hook. Which I think is going to be after CD if we've just done a CD. And then for hook in the hooks list, if it's executable or something or other, Then we print out the debug string running $hook, and we do RVM conditionally do with env. We run the hook. So RVM lets us have hooks in PWD. Let's go turn turn the debugs back off. Let's get rid of that. So what does this mean? If we make directory test2, cd into it, and if we make directory recursively .rvm/hooks, if we vim.rvm/hooks/ after cd make it a shell script that's bin sh, echo arbitrary code execution as id, echo, padded out some new lines. If we make that executable, chmod you make it executable for everyone. If we run that shell script, then we get this output here, right? Arbitrary code execution, blah, blah, blah. Now, if someone CDs into this directory called test2, it looks like RVM doesn't only check to see if there's any hooks in ~/.rvm/hooks, it looks for hooks in the present working directory as well. And there is one there. There's a hook called after cd doot. And it's executable. It's got to be executable, otherwise RVM won't run it. We saw that here. This -x means, is it executable? It's got to be executable. It's there. It's executable. It's in a path that makes it look like a hook, but it's in PWD instead of ~/.rvm. If we cd out of test2 and cd back into test2, there we go. You can have hooks in the directory. So if I gave you a tarball, which when it expanded made a directory with a hook in it, and you cd into it, I get code execution for free. I don't need you to actually open anything that was inside that tarball. I don't need you to open a picture and exploit your image viewer. I don't need you to be silly and run a binary. Hint, don't run binaries I send you on machines you care about. Like, that's just a bad idea. Don't run binaries on machines you care about from people, from strange internet people who send them to you. But the beauty of this is you don't need to have your victim run anything. Just by the fact that it's in a particular part of the directory tree, it's RVM treats it as a hook, and it looks for it, and it will run it if it's there. So that's the last bug I wanted to cover tonight. There were two more in the advisory. So we covered the fact that RVM automatically loads environment variables from files in the directory you're changing into. That was the overriding, or the overriding of PS1, which will just execute stuff. Escaping doesn't matter for that one. Like PS1, even if it's an escaped $bracket or backtick, PS1 still executes it as code. Then there was that command injection due to the bad escaping. We covered the hooks. There's two more as well. You should read it. These are pretty straightforward ones, but they're listed in there. Basically, they're a whole bunch of stuff to do with gem files and gems and bundles, which I don't really want to dive down the rabbit hole of tonight. But there's POCs in here. If we scroll through, in fact, we should probably do. Let's just do the POCs on stream. Actually, you know what? Let's not. Let's do one of them. So we did this one here. This is the hooks stuff. Let's not install gems, because then I've got to build a gem, which I don't really want to do tonight. Let's do this one here. RVM automatically does bundle install on a gem file specified by .versions.conf. We can basically just copy paste this here. Let's make the directory POC. Let's cd, let's POC. Let's create POC/.versions.conf. There it is. Ruby equals Ruby 233. For this one, you can't do the whole Ruby equals system trick. It needs to be a Ruby that ships with or is installed by RVM. So let's do Ruby equals Ruby-2.3.3. Ruby bundle install equals .doot. End of file. Let's go and create that .doot file. We just go and paste this in here. End of file. That's all we need to do. We just need to cd POC it'll install bundler for us automatically if bundler is not already installed. And there it is, code execution. If we cd out, cd poc, and there it is again. So that's just I'm not going to dive into the actual code tonight. There's links to the vulnerable code here. If you go and hit this link here, you'll see the vulnerable code. If you go to this issue on the bundler page here, this is just a reference that proves that you can execute arbitrary Ruby upon a bundle install of a gem file, which is a known behavior of bundler. That's just me copy pasting the POC. That one works. This POC here is a little bit more convoluted. I don't really want to build build a gem. But you can run through that one yourself, and you can check out the links to the code if you're interested. But yeah, so now we've haven't gone to the code, but we've proven that one as well. We'll just leave this one here. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that helped you. Hopefully that showed you that if you can ever seize the opportunity to not audit or make sense of bash code, you should seize that opportunity with vigor. Auditing bash, writing simple bash scripts is not too bad, and it can make life easy. Writing complicated bash scripts with all sorts of awfulness can be draining. If your bash script's getting big enough, turn it into a Python script. Do yourself a favor and do us all a favor as well. So hopefully you've seen the pain that can come with bash. I do not envy anyone who has to build serious stuff in bash. But hopefully you learned something tonight. Hopefully if you didn't learn something, then at least it was entertaining and interesting. Waytag15, thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah, as Singularity said, all my previous stuff is over on YouTube. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for giving us a chance and checking us out. And you are most welcome here. Welcome to the family. Are there any patches looming? Null, are you asking me if I've got anything left? I've got one bug that I reported to a project a little while ago. And once that's fixed, that's going to be me for the stuff I'm making public. The one that's coming up, I don't know how they're going to fix it. It's going to be it's a deep issue. I do not envy that project on fixing that one. It's similar to the RVM stuff in as much as opening something does something that you wouldn't expect opening that thing to do. You don't expect, for example, like Word macros, you don't expect that opening a Word document will execute macros and execute code. Like, that's a bit strange. We've come to accept it, but it's a bit strange. There's another thing that can open documents, that when you open documents of a certain type will execute code, which probably isn't really what you want from a document opening thing. So that's the last thing that I've got in the works for now. I'm hoping to be able to find some more bugs this year. I'm hoping this year is going to be more bugs, more findings, more streams, more fun times. But that's it for me for now. As I said before, I'm taking a couple of weeks off to execute on my move to Melbourne with as much success as I can muster. So until further notice, this is it from me. Give us a follow on Twitter if you want to watch me keep on being dumb over there. Otherwise, if you haven't seen all the archived stuff on YouTube, you've got a couple of weeks to catch up on all the old nonsense before we get into some new nonsense. Hope you've enjoyed tonight. I very much look forward to our next time together. I'm sorry it won't be for a few weeks, but when it does, I mean, distance growth makes the heart grow fonder, yeah? That's what I'm going to go with. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of the week, and I will see you all soon.